This is going to unlock the Red Sox. Hello, everyone. I'm Evan Sharrard with Red Sox Digest. And a few days ago, Lucas Giolito was talking about Max Fried, his former high school teammate, as you can see in that image. Giolito on the left, Fried closing out on the right. And before we talk about that, I just want to talk about making sure that you subscribe to the channel just for your latest Red Sox news, rumors, reports, etc. Trying to get to you every day that we can. And just want to bring this up, 94% of the audience that watches are not subscribed. So it really helped us out a lot if you did. It means the world to me. It's free. So thank you for listening to my spiel on that. Now let's get on to what you're actually here for, which is the report that, okay, Lucas Giolito's been talking. What's the source here? What's going on? There's a Boston.com article. There's that graph again. We'll get that out of your hair here. But Boston.com released a report, and it just says that Giolito made a pitch to Max Fried already. And Max Fried, if you don't know, uninitiated on this, he's one of the top pitchers in all of baseball, plays for the Atlanta Braves, World Series champion with them. Legit level ace kind of pitcher who the Red Sox could really use. And hey, he's about to be a fully unrestricted free agent. So let's kind of take a look at what he had said before we get to those stats. This is what Lucas Giolito said. Basically just kind of said, hey man, we played high school ball together. We talked about it legitimately about being on the same team in the big leagues, and you know, it would be a really good shot to make it a reality. And granted, not much here, but the fact that the Red Sox have a player who's already talked to Max Fried about joining up, and that he has actually talked to him about that in the past, that's big. That's huge. And that really could be a puller for a team that has money to spend and needs starting pitching. Max Fried's payday could be right here to be the cornerstone of a baseball team that really could use him as an ace, and really might just be an ace or two pitchers away. And if Max Fried joins that, he could be one of the higher paid players in all of baseball and one of the more successful. So with that being said, why don't we take a little bit of a look at Max Fried's numbers, etc. here. So I'm now over onto the left, and now I'm down into the bottom right. Max Fried stats, his entire major league career. Let's talk about why this guy would be so good if the Red Sox got him. First thing, I love ERA plus. It's the ERA, except it's based on 100 is average, and anything below it is below average. Anything above it is that much more above average. So he's always been above 100. And actually, in 2020, he didn't lose a game in that shortened season with just 60 games, and he was 108 points better than average. So what does that mean? For those of you who don't like these advanced stats, just take a look at that ERA category and the wins and losses. In his first 2 years in the league, he lost more than he won. Now, I like to argue that that's a team stat more than it is a player stat, but at the end of the day, the most important stats that most people look at are ERA and wins, or innings pitched and wins. And this guy pitches a lot of innings when he's basically playing a full year, and he wins. 17-6 in 2019, 11-10 this year, and this was a Braves team that struggled a lot. Their offense wasn't as good as they thought it would be. This is multiple all-star. He's a Gold Glover, and in 2021, he was also a Silver Slugger, which is awesome. Not that that really matters in now today's baseball, as the pitchers don't hit anymore, but he's got 2 Gold Gloves, was second in Cy Young voting in 2022. All of those ERAs are pretty much below 3, except for 2019 and 2017. Below like 3.25. Okay, around 3. And anything below 3 is fantastic. So Max Fried is going to be 30, and you could sign him to a 5-year deal. I'd expect him to be great. And another thing about Max Fried, as we take a look at his baseball savant stats here, he's a ground ball guy, and they don't hit him very hard. He might not strike out a bunch of guys and get a lot of whiffs, but boy, is that ground ball percentage in the 96th percentile. 4% of pitchers are better than him. That's incredible when it comes to that. The barrel rate, guys don't hit him hard. It's really good stuff, and he doesn't throw extremely hard. And I think what that means is he should be fairly consistent in how he pitches. It's not going to be like, oh, Max Fried doesn't have his stuff today. This guy doesn't walk guys a ton. He's around average when it comes to that, but he just doesn't give up hard hit baseballs, which I think is really important, especially the way that the Red Sox got slugged this year. Cutter Crawford led the majors in home runs allowed, and the rest of the staff just really struggled with the home run ball. So let's kind of talk a little bit about how he'll fit in to this Red Sox team if the Red Sox go out and get him. So I would slide Fried into that number one spot. We can bring up his stats here as we're talking about him here, because Max Fried really does have the numbers to provide ace quality stuff. And in the past, his injury history has been a little worrying, but not so much that this guy misses an entire year. So he only pitched 14 games in 2023. But again, when he pitches, he's unbelievable. And he's also not so old where you're worrying about his durability in that sense. So Max Fried on a staff where he's got Tanner Houck behind him, Cutter Crawford, Brayan Bello extended for a while, Lucas Giolito coming back next year, unless he decides to opt out, which I would be really surprised by since Giolito's got a $19 million contract, hasn't pitched a full season, has been up and down throughout his career, hasn't shown that he can be extremely consistent. I think he'd probably like to take his $19 million. I don't know if he's going to get that kind of an offer again from another team. But Max Fried's connection with Lucas Giolito, how could that impact them as a unit of two players who could really just be a lot happier with each other around? And also, there's got to be something to be said about the pitching coach the Red Sox have in Andrew Bailey and how he was able to work with the Red Sox pitchers who really kind of stunk last year. And then this season, they were a whole lot better in the first half of the year. Now, they didn't adapt as well in the second half, but when we look at how the Red Sox started, they were the second best pitching staff through the first 30-something games in all of Major League history, behind, I think it was like the 74 Dodgers or something like that. Those are incredible numbers that really do mean something. The Red Sox found something. They were really pitching well. And I think the difference is they were throwing so many off-speed pitches and breaking balls that they needed to find a balance. And also, some of the guys got tired. Tanner Houck's stuff just didn't look as good in the second half. He wasn't as accurate, and teams started sitting off-speed. We made a video about this in the past, which you can go back and find, where we talked about what happened with the Red Sox as they just took this nosedive after the All-Star break. But what the Red Sox need to prevent something like that is a guy who's tried and true, and they need pitchers who haven't just been, I'm playing really well right now, and this was kind of unexpected. Bringing in a guy like Max Fried right now not only would say, hey, we've got somebody who's been consistent, long tenure, but it is a message to the fan base, which we've been waiting for so long after we've gone out and gotten guys like Adam Duvall, and we've signed Hunter Renfroe at one point, brought him in, traded for Kyle Schwarber, let him go. He was the kind of piece where it's like, wow, this guy could be really, really good for a long time for the Red Sox. They let him go. They didn't want to pay what they could pay for Xander Bogaerts, where, granted, the years that he got for that contract I thought was ridiculous and not worth paying, but of any player, especially after what happened with Mookie, letting him go in 2019, actually forcing him out instead of extending him, the Red Sox would have been the one team that it's like, okay, you gave him a bad contract, but he's the heart and soul. The Red Sox have been, to fans, cheaping out, saying, we're going to build through the farm system, we want to be under payroll, and it just seems like their attempts are just, we're hoping this works. We're not 100% confident in it, but we think we'll be more competitive. And now the rhetoric has changed. They're kind of saying, Sam Kennedy came out and said, it's time. We want to be competing for the division title next year. And granted, Boston sports fans and all, me included, are aiming for those world championships. We want our teams to be able to go, okay, we're not great for a couple years, but we're okay with that if we're gunning for a championship right after. And now Red Sox fans are too antsy. Let's do something. We've got the money. We're one of the biggest teams in baseball history when it comes to spending and star players and winning. Let's do it. And now, if they brought in Max Fried, I think that sends that message. We've spent bigger money on players who are not the guy, but Max Fried is one of those guys who is going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to get a lot of attention from every other team in baseball, including the Dodgers, who don't need help in the pitching front in that way, besides staying healthy. And who knows, maybe Clayton Kershaw is really this bad now, based on, and when I say this bad, I mean maybe he's not Clayton Kershaw anymore and he's just an average pitcher and it's time for him to retire after next year. Max Fried could surely fill in that role and learn a little from Kershaw goes out. The Dodgers, all the big money spenders are going to be after, and if the Red Sox send the message that, yeah, we spent the big bucks, we got our guy, I think they're showing, the front office would then be showing, we're going to go for it now, because this is not all Craig Breslow's fault. This is how we're going to work. We're going to not spend the big money until it's time. That's what they've been saying. And now, at this point, after we've had breakout seasons from Tristan Casas and, well, not as much, but from Jarren Duran and Ceddanne Rafaela, and all these big four prospects are right here. Roman Anthony taking a sky shot upwards, basically being ready for the big league club next season. It's time. It's time for the Red Sox to spend the money, and bringing in Max Fried would show us, as the fans of this team and the media, that the narrative's changing. They are really trying. We've confused people for a few years now. What are they doing at the deadline? We expect them to sell and buy. They're going to make the best move that they can to improve, but also not do something drastic where they might minimize their ability to win if they fail. They're so afraid of failing, and now it's time to really put yourself out there. Go spend the big bucks. If you fail, you fail, but you have to try. And it's time for the Red Sox to show, yes, our plan actually is working. We are really smart. We are genius for taking those years and building this team that can contend for decades, like the Dodgers and the Braves and what have you. And so that's all I got for you today. Thank you for joining me on Red Sox Digest. I'm Evan Sharrard saying so long, and let's go Red Sox. Hopefully that the Dodgers can take out Dodgers or Mets. Game 6 tonight, when I'm recording this, can take out those Yankees, because that'll be the best time of the year. Can't stand them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and so long.